Welcome, one and all, to the Bear Right Trail Podcast. This is the place where we talk East Coast trail running and racing in all its rugged glory. Tonight's discussion is about some of the racing this past weekend, both at Hellgate 100K and the Dirty Bird 10-miler. That is also known as the World Trail Running Championships of Eastern Pennsylvania. Of course, we will get into that, and we're also going to try to wrap up a little bit of the 2024 East Coast trail racing season, try to highlight some incredible performances that went down on the East Coast this year, and just talk about some of the people who really crushed it out there. So, of course, here with me tonight is my trusted compatriot, Chris Lewis.
Damn, how's it going? How are you feeling? How are you recovering after that 12:01 start? I see you got the Hellgate jacket on. It's nice.
Bit of just casually have this on here.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with trying to show anything off.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that just that shows that I had my top 10 finish at
Love it
at Hellgate.
Oh, is that what it is? The top 10? I mean, I know like Horton gives out some pretty sweet swag at races. That's it's a nice Patagonia. Looks like a rain jacket there. Looks pretty comfy.
It's very nice. So
nice.
The top 10 men's and women's finishers get these nice Patagonia jackets. All the finishers get really, I think it's like a Patagonia little quarter zip type thing. So it's very well, all the finishers are well adorned with Patagonia swag. It's very good.
Love it. Awesome.
Very good stuff.
Well, congrats there. Congrats. You had a strong
Thank
race. Yep. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. So you didn't race this past weekend, but you were at a race, a very important race. And I want to hear all about what went down at the Dirty Bird.
So unfortunately, still not to get, able to get onto the trails. Ankle's still coming around, but it's here nor there. Yeah, I was lucky enough to attend and spectate the East Coast 10-mile championship. The Bear Right Trail team had a nice contingent there. Rob Hampson, no surprise, absolutely smoked the course. I think this year was there's a few alterations. It was 10 miles. In the past, it was a traditional 15K. Rob ran a 101 low, something like that, with between 11 and 1,200 feet of gain. Some from looking at the Strava maps afterwards and talking to the guys. Some technical stuff, some fast runnable stuff, but Rob throwing down 6:13 per mile average. Unbelievable. Brian Wiest, another Bear Right Trail team member, right on his tail. Really. I think he was maybe 45 seconds back, like a minute back. They both had outstanding races. Ryan Bear coming in third, just a couple minutes behind them. They all had super
Nick
strong.
Was third.
Well, Nick was
technically
third, but he went out for another loop. So let me pause. Actually, right? I've never seen this before, and this was cracking me up. I was spectating with a friend of the pod and a friend of ours, Teller. We did a couple road miles beforehand, so we witnessed this, right? So Rob comes in, and we were spectating different parts of the course, whatever. So we came back to the finish line. We didn't get back. Rob outran us. We didn't see him finish. We arrived right as Brian was finishing, right? And a few minutes later, Nick comes through, and then right on his tail is Ryan, right? And everyone's finished, everyone's done, right? And we're taking pictures, and Nick hops in a bunch of pictures, and then composes himself and goes back out for another loop. I was like, this is hilarious. He, some fanfare went on. He was signing autographs, kissing babies, slapping backs, and then he decides to go out for another run, and ends up winning the 20 mile, right, the 2 loop, which was pretty impressive. That dude just buries it every race. So that was those were the top 3. So he technically came in third, but was first crossing the finish line for the 2 loop. Actually, my brother got second. Matt was second there in the 2 loop. And, I know Josh was in the mix there. Josh Finger was in the mix as well. But
All right.
A great time, man. A really fun time. Looking forward to hopefully running it next year, having the crew back, having some more guys show up. But anyway, so that was Sunday. So Sam, you alluded, to your Hellgate finish, your top 10 finish. Do you want to give a little bit of an insight on how your race went, sort of how the course was, and the details?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So this was my first time going down to Hellgate. This is a race, 100K-ish race down in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia. Starts at midnight, goes all throughout the Blue Ridge Mountains, for lack of a better way of talking about it. It's a mix of trail and dirt road running. They say a lot of it for the first half is just climbing up a dirt road, descending down single track, and long sustained climbs, can be about an hour of climbing, 45 minutes of descending, kind of stuff like that, back to back to back to back. And really, really, really cool race. Hard to get your rest and kind of stuff like that right going into it, your first experience. That's what I found. But really, really cool. More running in a long ultra with other people than I've ever imagined would ever happen.
Okay.
I was running with a couple of guys that have ran the race many, many times. Like for 90% of the race, I was running just with other people. And I think that's something really cool about that midnight start down there, is that it brings people together, because you're starting under the headlamps and you kind of group up because of it. You know, people don't want to go off and be by themselves. Everybody kind of wants to group up. So we were real grouped up for a long time. I was very careful not to overdo it. So this is probably my most careful race I've ever done in my life. It was much, much more for me like a super controlled long run than anything else, just because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't do any pre-race scouting or anything like that. I had no idea what to expect. So I tried to keep everything really, really under control the entire time. And I did. I executed really, really well. Only had a few emergency shit in the woods kind of moments.
Nice.
And that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an awesome community down there. I mean, I got to meet some really, really cool people. Really impressed with the level of trail running in the West Virginia area. Those guys are really, 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 really good. And just surprisingly so. So I was really impressed. And it's a race that I'll go back to for sure. Yeah, really, really good. But that's about it, Just a good race, good people.
Yeah.
Good times.
So you finished fourth overall, I believe. Really strong effort, Sam. Low 11 hour-ish, right?
11 and a half.
11 and a half hours.
Yeah, right in the middle.
real strong. So what, I know we're going to move on here in a second, but what did because of that 12:01 start, what did your sleep look like leading up to that? Like, were you able to get a couple cat naps in? How did that go? No, nothing.
It was real bad. I didn't really sleep Thursday night either. I don't know exactly why, but so I went in with a decent amount of deficit. I don't know whether it plays a big role or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's why you do the taper, so that you have that banked. But that was bad. But I would say I learned a lot on how I would do it differently in the future. There was just a lot of wasted time. Yeah, I could have been resting.
And what's the entry look like? Because I've heard, I've never run one of Horton's races, but at least Hellgate in particular, it has a bit of a mystique, right, regarding the entry. What is that? What's the...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the difficulty to get in sort of like that border is, but certainly people who have run the race before, if they have completed it before, you're getting in.
Okay.
Because that's basically what David Horton is looking at. He's like, can you complete the race? It's not like necessarily trying to make the most competitive field or anything like that. It has to do with, he wants people out there who can do it. He doesn't want to have a bunch of DNFs and things like that. He's like, I want people out here who can do it. So that's why that assessment happens. And he also, I think he likes having it be kind of personal like that.
Sure.
As well. But Yeah, I don't know sort of at what level. I mean, you'd have to be capable of completing this race in 18 hours. And I mean, you got to be somewhat decent to do that.
Yeah, well, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to run. Sam, you ran the. I mean, there wasn't much walking. It sounded like you would have to.
I
run.
didn't walk any.
So you'd have to run really, regardless of pace. I mean, at the very least, maybe 75% of the. So so he wants a field of decently strong runners. That makes sense. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything?
Good stuff.
Anything else to recap from Hellgate?
I don't think a whole lot. It's a cool race. Highly recommend it, and especially from that social element. I think that's what's really special about that race.
Yeah.
Is the amount of time you spend with other runners, because we all know in a lot of these ultras, you can spend basically the whole race by yourself.
Yeah.
And this one's not like that.
Yeah, even in some shorter stuff. Awesome. Cool. Well, that one's I was gonna say that one's on the maybe in the at some point interest in completing, but maybe not. I don't know. No, we'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe I have to do 100K first. How about that? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, what else do we have on the docket here?
Well, we got on the docket kind of wrapping up 2024, talking about what racing was like on the East Coast this year, some of the great performances, great performers. And before we get into that, we kind of got to talk about what makes an East Coast trail runner of the year. What are the qualifications?
All right. So, what I feel would make the most sense, right, is a runner that is currently located on the East Coast and then also runs like a majority of, maybe not a majority, I would say at least 50% of their races on the East Coast. Is that fair?
So being born on the East Coast does not make you an East Coast trail runner. So let's say someone like Jeff McGovero.
Yeah. So okay, so I'm gonna make these guidelines very loose guidelines, right? So if it's convenient to,
if it helps your story, like if it helps what you want to say, then it's okay.
100%.
But if not, all right.
Yeah, it's like the convenience of well, I won't go into it, but
how long they've been away makes a difference as well. So
I guess it has to. I think it has to. I think if we're celebrating the East Coast, not only races but community. Yeah, I think you have to have some roots on the East Coast. If you're like a West Coast transplant, but you have some roots in the East Coast, and you're living. I guess that doesn't happen often. Most East Coasters are going to the West Coast. Very little West Coasters coming to the East Coast, right?
But it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. And because we have an example of that here, we have a new East Coaster who had some really great East Coast results, also some great West Coast results. And we got to decide. It's like, are we including them in this?
All right.
And the other part of it is that like, is there a level of athlete that we are not willing to go above?
Yeah. No, that's
it's like if you're really good, are we really considering you a East Coast?
Yeah, we probably shouldn't, right? So I thought I had going into this podcast, I thought I had a very well-rounded, well thought out idea of what we were looking for as far as the nominees, right? And then I just talked myself into a circle. So I don't know. What? I would say for the purpose of giving these end of the year awards, I think they need to be really planted in the East Coast, running the majority or at least 50% of the East Coast trail races. And yeah, maybe not elite too.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, so if you have a professional contract,
you're out.
You're out.
Yeah, you're out.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, some of these people on here are going to be really disappointed.
Well, so here's another question: is what is a pro runner? What is that? How do you constitute a pro runner? Like, do they have to? What does that entail?
Well, definitely have some people on here that we're going to consider pros. Okay. There are some sponsored athletes that could have made it on here as well, but we have some full-time pro athletes on this list, I think, that we we should get into here.
All right,
And
let's go.
you know what? Our audience can decide whether they think that these athletes deserve the accolades or not.
That's very fair.
So, all right, let's talk about a couple of things. So, first of all, we have sub ultra trail, we have short ultra trail, so your sort of DK to 50-mile-ish type areas, and then let's say long ultra, so 100K plus. Then we're going to have what we would consider to be kind of performances of the year, and then also the season resumes. So what we're looking at. So let's start in here with the women, and I'll start with a little bit of my take. It seemed to me that our short trail women's competition really heated up in the Northeast Kingdom, up there with your big racing like at Loon Mountain, as well as the race the cog and things along those lines. You've got your short trail stuff, a little bit of focus coming in from, what is it now? Anyway, there's extra focus on those races, and we have some really, really top level names that we're throwing it down up there. Most notably, Lauren Gregory and Amber Zimmerman, who were really, really just flying at these races this year.
So Sam, you had mentioned they are some Golden Trail. They're in, part of the Golden Trail series. They've also run
with Lauren,
right?
Yeah.
So do you recall how many of those Golden Trail races that she's run?
She's run quite a few.
Yeah.
However, these are not Golden Trail races that we're talking about here.
No, right. Exactly. Yeah. Just sort of, painting a picture of what type of athlete she is. So she is a pro athlete, elite athlete. Yeah. What about some of the races that she's done here on the East Coast and specifically the Northeast?
Okay, so when I was speaking about Lauren Gregory, in the Northeast, she won the Jigger Johnson 20 mile. She won the Loon Mountain race.
Ooh, yeah, okay.
And she was second at Race the Cog.
Okay.
So she has 3 Northeast races just on Ultra Sign Up. Now I've been basically just going off Ultra Sign Up.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other races, and she also raced in Arkansas as well, end of the year. Now that's, she also was second at the World Series final of Golden Trail. So
yeah,
she's very, very good very good trail runner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competing at the very top level. It's hard to compete with that. Another East Coaster who did very, very well this year, Katie O'Regan.
Yeah.
She did very, very well up at the Loon Mountain races, I think, as well. And then also ran quite well at a few races around our area as well.
Yeah.
Iron Masters, to name one. And so she also had a very good sub-ultra season.
Yeah. I'm looking, and I know we discussed this name leading up, but a race that's close to my heart. I really love this race, the Heiner Trail Challenge, and really the finish by Cassandra Splitter really jumped out in a 5:09. I mean, I've still yet to really nail that race in the 20, and I know that the 50K is again just another sort of another thing in its own. It's a quite an animal of its own. So to run a 5:09 there is really smoking. So I definitely want to shout her out.
I would say, thank you for shouting out Cassandra Spittler, because I think
sorry, Spittler. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that she likely has a good bit more racing that I just haven't seen. As we said, most of our research is on Ultra Sign Up. She had 2 wins in April.
Yeah.
And then I haven't seen, there's nothing else on here.
Yeah.
From that, but I expect that she was probably racing and she was probably tearing it up.
Yeah. Yep.
So, another person that really, really had quite the season. Another person that we wanted to point out there on the women's side, Lila Gaudreau, I think is how it's said.
Yeah.
Also just racked up win after win after win this year. A lot of stuff at the much longer distances, 30 hour, and a couple of 8-hour races as well. A third place at Vermont 100, very fast time, 17:46. And yeah, just a lot of those timed ultras and just really crushing those.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, some of those times are smoking.
Yeah.
Sam, you brought up Justina Wilson
Mm-hmm.
earlier. You know,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing her up. A local PA runner, Southeast Pennsylvania, and she races a ton. I don't know her personally, but I feel like every race that I go to, which are mostly like local Southeastern Pennsylvania races, she's absolutely dominating. And then, going to, I see she ran Hellgate. I didn't know she ran Hellgate.
Mm-hmm.
Javelina, like Vermont, like she's all over the place, not just the local races. She branches out all, up and down the East Coast and, even some of the West Coast races and just continues to crush it. So she's run, looks like at least on ultra sign up, 7 or 8 races of 50K or longer. Most of which are like 50-mile. She ran the Laurel Highlands, just over 70, and then a couple hundreds, like
Course record there.
Course record, like absolutely crushing, still crushing it. So, have to shout her out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Laurel Highlands.
There you
right
go.
Here.
There you
That's
go.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, a not so subtle reminder.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite race. I preach it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of runners and performances that we're not going to touch on today. These are just some of the ones that we think are absolutely outstanding. So if you had to give a pick for the East Coast Women's Trail Runner of the Year, who would be your pick?
Well, I think in terms of, again, we're basing this off of ultra sign up, so we can't say exactly. But I think just as far as the taking into account the number of races and then also placing and time, finishing time of those races, I think you have to give it to Justina Wilson. Just continues like since I've been in the sport, I've seen her name at so many different races. So, okay, sure, she's going back to a few, I guess, but I mean, the number of new races every year that she's running and still crushing. It's not like she's going into a race, hey, might not know this course, right? This might be her first. I think many of these races are her first time racing at the race, right? So like a combination of that, the number of races that she's done, and then also how competitive she's been. That would be my pick, certainly. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit outside of, I'm going to take a little flyer here, right? I'm going to assume that Cassandra Spittler ran a bunch of races that we don't know about.
Nice.
Just based off of her sort of 2023 results and things like that. And even though there's only, 2 results on here, I'm going to give her the nod. I think that, like you said, that 5:09 at Heiner,
that's smoking
trail in the 50K.
Yeah.
That's a big result. I'm interested in that. Those are like Trap Rock 50K and Heiner 50K. Those are both serious trail races. And, I think she really, really crushed it there. And so I'm giving that 50K distance some shine, I guess.
Love it. I love it, Sam. That's, yeah. That's a good one.
You got to have different perspectives.
Yeah, you do. Okay, great.
So, you know what, Chris, let's take a quick little break here.
Yep.
And both welcome our kids home and see if we can take a few more minutes to talk about the men's performances this year.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's get on to the guys here after our short break there for Christmas, essentially.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it, Sam. Hopefully you're feeling better, man. You seem like you're kicking things there. So
thanks. Yeah, the audio might be a little bit different here for everybody, but we'll try to muddle through somehow, like they say in the holidays, and get this done. Yeah, so we went through the East Coast women. We also kind of profiled that there might be people who do or do not qualify for these kinds of awards.
Yeah, I think we might have confused maybe the listeners for sure, ourselves probably also.
Yeah.
So there you go. At least we talked about it.
Yeah. Let's get into what we consider to be some of these men's standout performances this year. What are some of the East Coast performances? Not necessarily like just full seasons, but just standout performances that you really blew you away.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of recency bias. I know we had a bunch of East Coasters down at JFK. We already went over that a little bit, but worth at least mentioning it. With Ben Linney, Andrew Simpson, and Ferdinand Clovis, and Ryan Clifford as well, all in the top 10. So that's definitely worth a mention. All those guys had fantastic races, and I guess
East Coast really showed up at JFK this year for sure.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if we went over it. Do we lump David Sinclair into that group?
Let's at least lump it
right?
in for the performances.
Yeah.
And I think you got to say course record being
Unreal.
blown away at JFK by David Sinclair, newly minted East Coaster.
Yeah,
has to be right up at the very, very top. And then we'll come down and talk about what mortals did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that really was unbelievable. I mean, watching it on the live stream blew my mind. That was such an amazing, performance. So, and I guess all things considered, probably if nothing else, the most well-known East Coast Ultra. So I think it's worth mentioning that again. But yeah, that would be the performance for sure. At least, from an East Coast Ultra, is David Sinclair's 508 or whatever it is, 509 at JFK. But moving on, there were a number of really strong races here. I know something that stood out to me, a race that stood out to me was Ben Quattromoni's was that?
Because Heiner
was the Heiner.
CR?
I'm sorry, the Heiner.
Yeah.
I was like having second thoughts. I'm like, that was this year, right? Yeah.
It absolutely was.
Yeah. The 413 is like, man, that's insane. I know Jared Burdick had the previous course record there with the 420. Both he did Parker Weeks was a little bit over 420 and change, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he had really taken the race out though.
Yeah, but that 413 is one that blew me away. I mean, even a 420 on that course is smoking. A 413 is like, I just don't know. I mean, I haven't run the entire 50K, course there, just the 25, but how you pick up that time, like where on that course you're picking up those quicker miles, I just don't know. So that one is super impressive. That's just sort of something that jumps out at me. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're running 50K in that 4-hour window, in a trail 50K, that's fast for any 50K, right?
It is. Yeah,
anybody running a 4-hour 50K, but one with that much climbing, decent amount of technicality there on the trails. Not crazy technical by any means, but plenty of climbing, some hiking in there. Like, it's hard to run every step, right?
Absolutely.
And so covering that in close to 4 hours is pretty darn incredible.
Impressive. Impressive.
Another CR I want to point out there would be who he was dueling with there. Parker Weeks coming out and running the first sub 10-hour Twisted Branch 100K. These aren't really comparable performances. One's at 50K, one's at 100K, but going sub 10 hours, I think something like 12,000 feet of climbing there, a lot of slow running, a lot of fast running too, but very, very impressive to go sub 10 hours there. And we're talking about a 64, somewhere 64, 65 mile race. This is not 62, it is that's a long race.
Yeah, that's something to point out for sure. Those extra few miles, especially on a technical, race, like that. Obviously, that race well, is really impressive. Yeah. There's a bunch. Like I said, there's a bunch that we're going over and milling over, and sort of the more you look into it, the more you're like, wow, yeah, there's some absolutely impressive races out there. The one thing that we didn't talk about, Sam, and I just want to shout this person out. I talked about him a little bit before. He's a local guy. Is Nico Teller running and finishing the Cocodona 250. That's not an East Coast race, but he's an East Coast guy. He's a local guy. That's something that's just so impressive. Like I can't even imagine taking that on and then putting together a really, really solid effort. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was 70th, maybe 70-ish overall in that race. So to put together that race and to finish, in the top 100, I know it's not, a race where you're going to have a couple thousand, but still to put together that, that race is really impressive. So I definitely want to shout him out. Not an East Coast race, but an East Coast guy, a friend of ours, friend of the pod.
A lot of racing this year.
Man. A
Huge
ton
amount of racing.
A ton. Went from a 250-mile race to JFK, in the same calendar year, in the same season, really. So pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think, I want to say he did Javelina as well in there.
Yeah, he did.
I think both he and Ferdinand did the Javelina JFK double.
That's awesome, right? Yeah, how about that double? Is that a new one? Maybe.
Yeah, that's the new one, man. Mm-hmm. That's the new big deal. Somebody that I really wanted to point out here, someone who I don't know personally, but would like to, is Amid Binheimer. Binhammer, I guess. Not sure on the pronunciation there. But what a season this guy stacked together. Wins at Jigger Johnson, Catamount, Breakneck Point. And that Breakneck Point win was, to me, really impressive. The conditions were horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. And that is a extremely hard 42K.
Sure, yeah.
9,600 feet of climbing in there and just absolutely brutal. And it was just pouring down rain, foggy, intense for the second half of that race. So I was really impressed with that win. And he has, these several others in there as well that were really strong. I think a very, very strong runner, a good season from him as well. Then, somebody that I think a lot of people are starting to know much better, Dan Green.
Oh, yeah.
How can we not talk about Dan Green and his season here? Yeah,
the West Virginia contingent, I mean, there's, some strong group of runners in the West Virginia area.
I learned that quite a bit going down there to Hellgate, just seeing how strong and deep that community of running is down there. They're just very, very deep community, really connected, and some just really strong runners kind of from our level up.
Yeah.
We
would be the bottom of the barrel down there, man. But certainly strong runners.
Yeah, but I mean, just looking at his 2024 here, a sub 9 out at Black Canyons, which was, not really a crazy, good performance for him. I think that was a bit of a blow up. Then he stacked up a couple of wins, took second to Alex Minor at Hurricane K, and of course that real stunning sub 13 hour third place at Javelina, just missing out on a golden ticket.
Yeah, that was amazing. That really was. Outstanding race. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure whether we count that one. Thought we mentioned it anyway.
Yeah, no, you know what? I think it's important though. I do think it's important. East Coast pod, I understand it, right? But I do think we have to highlight, it's nice to highlight some of the East Coast guys going out west and throwing down. You got to represent, so I think that's cool. A guy that, again, that I don't know well, but, as far as his name, like on my radar, Sam, you brought him up and he's one of the guys just going through, again, be honest with it, going through his ultra sign up, but someone who races a lot just by paging down through sort of the roster of his races is Justin Kowski. Just year after year, the amount of races that he does is pretty impressive. Not surprisingly, again, here in 2024 too, just, threw down, looks like 7-8 races, all, 1, 2, or up there on the podium for the most part. So he's a name certainly worth mentioning as well.
I think he had a gritty win there up there at Manitou's Revenge, which took down fading Ben Quattromoni, I think, late in the race. I saw
Okay.
that race report.
Okay.
And, he's the kind of person that he likes to show up and do some tough competitive races, but he's also showing up for these community type races like the Connecticut Ultra Traverse Cut 112 that's put on by Cultra, the Cultra crew up
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm
Cool.
sure you're familiar.
That's great.
Jigger Johnson has won that 100-mile. I think that was the inaugural running of that, like just getting out there and doing it. I'm looking back over some other years just to give some context here. But the Highlands Trail Festival 100, he was one of 2 finishers of that race, I'm pretty sure, because of how difficult that finish was.
That's insane. Yeah.
I don't know how many starters there were in the 100K, but yeah, okay, here we go. If I go in here, it was not a huge amount of starters, but you had like looks like 15% finisher rate.
Wow.
You had two finishers in 100K.
That's insane. Yeah, that's wild.
Okay, and that's how tough it was. That 50K, I won the 50K in that race.
Mm-hmm.
And stuck around for their finishes, and that was another one that was really, really brutal conditions. Just shows the kind of strength and grit that guy has. Very, very impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, there's
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that a couple other guys here local to the PA area. Trevor Fye. Trevor, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your last name incorrectly. I know Trevor pretty well, but he won World's End this year, second at Black Forest, and then also Reagan McCoy had a solid year as well. Raced quite a number of times. So
I think a little bit of a
course.
sleeper season, bit of a sleeper season there for
sure.
Reagan.
Yep.
I mean, last year he had gone for the Crown Triple, which would be trying to win all 3 of the Triple Crowns.
Yeah.
And came up just short.
Yeah.
Of the first leg.
Yeah, the Heiner.
But then still closed it out with wins at both World's End and Eastern States last year.
And that's funny. I knew Ben Linney won that race, but I didn't realize how close it was. I didn't realize it was only, less than 30 seconds. That's interesting. Wow. Yeah.
It's just that was like, what I mean? So when I say a bit of a sleeper season, I mean, like, it's hard to follow up a season like that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I had mentioned earlier Alex Miner, also part of that West Virginia contingent.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a couple of wins at Hurricane 100, which is, I know they're really trying to make that race a big East Coast draw. There's money in it. The West Virginia guys really show up and throw down there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to go down there at some point. And I know that they really, I think the course records are from 2022, and I'm not sure. I think Alex came close again here in 2024. I'd have to look at the.
Yeah, you mentioned that he clipped Dan Green for the win by about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, he's got the win and the course record down there. This year was not his course record, but he does have it. Excuse me. But yeah, once again, also another great season. Yes, I wanted to shout him out there too.
Absolutely.
So, who are you thinking for your picks if you had a top 3, whether you got to put in any particular order or not? No need to, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the 2 guys, and interesting enough that they raced each other a couple times this year, is going to be, Ben Quattromoni and Parker Weeks. I think it's pretty tough to overlook the seasons that both of those guys had. And I can imagine that they'll continue to. How old's Ben? Okay, Ben's a few years older, but they're both in their 30s, and they'll probably continue to keep just absolutely, crushing it here moving forward. It'll be exciting to see what those guys, have. Looks like Ben Quattromoni signed up for Gorge Waterfalls. That'll be fun to see in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Parker's not signed up for anything as of yet, not on Ultra sign up, but I would say, yeah, top 2. It would be tough for me to decide who I would give the nomination to, considering that, they flopped 1-2 at Twisted Branch. Parker won Twisted Branch. Ben got second, and then reverse at Heiner earlier in the year. So tough to sort of. It's probably splitting hairs there, but I would say those two guys would be my two. What about you? What about you, Sam?
Well, I have to say, to me, it seems a little less tough.
Okay.
If I'm gonna, this is eliminating David Sinclair clearly from the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a little. We want to keep it competitive here.
Yeah,
right?
that would be certainly unfair, David Sinclair.
But I don't want him to listen to this and feel like he's been overlooked.
Well, because he probably is. He's glued, you know.
Yeah. So I have to say, if I was gonna do, I'm gonna count mine down, right? I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1 here.
Nice.
In third, I'm gonna put Parker Weeks in third on my list. I think he has that real standout Twisted Branch performance. Just big high five to him there. Absolutely stunning performance. So he has a couple of other races in the year. He has that second place in a really good time at Heiner. But as far as the competition that he saw, things like that at those races, I'm not gonna put myself up there in the the upper echelon of competition. So I'm not sure if he had as impressive a season, but a wonderful season altogether, and absolutely deserving of being on the podium.
Yep.
I'm going to put in second. I'm going to put in Dan Green.
Okay. Nice.
Dan Green, and really to me, I'm going to allow it with the Javelina. That is, to
as
me,
you should,
is the best performance by like what we would consider any of our East Coast trail runners.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
We really think belong to the East Coast.
That's a good point.
That sub 13 throwing down out there. I
agree with that.
Just so huge.
Yeah.
And so that one kind of elevate everything else from him. I mean, he had a really solid year too. But I'm gonna put him in at second. And for me, the East Coaster of the year has got to be Ben Quattromoni. I think that 5 run race stretch that he had with 4 wins or 3 wins out of 5 and 2 runners up. Just getting nipped essentially at the line by just very, very strong Justin Kowski up at Manitou's. 100, and across the board, we're talking 50K to 100 mile wins.
Yeah, exactly.
And just absolutely just stomping all these races.
Hell of a
very,
year.
very, very impressed. And Cruel Jewel, I believe, is that is a Hard Rock qualifier race and supposedly very, very tough. I think that is a course record at Cruel Jewel. Let me take a look here at the course record there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it?
It is a course record by nearly an hour. So, and that's over Canyon Woodward, who is also a pretty well-known entity in trail running circles. So yeah, that he's taking down Peter Mortimer in the race, another well-known racer. So 2 big course records at very big races. I gotta give it to him.
Yeah, agreed, man. Yep. Yeah, some solid performances this year, man. It'll be fun to see what 2025 has to bring. Any thoughts? Like any races that you're excited about for the next year? Anything in particular?
2020, 25. Hey, I
There's
a lot of 20s in there. Predictions.
Predictions. Yeah.
Predictions for me, or for the season.
For you, how about what you? Yeah. Just be a little selfish. What do you got going on in 2025?
A lot less.
Yeah,
a lot less.
Okay.
Yeah. I think being out on the outside looking in with the Western States stuff, I'm going to be heading out there to pace.
That's exciting.
And enjoy that. I'm going to focus a lot on family, a lot on the podcast, right?
Yep.
Trying to get this stuff going, and maybe a little bit less on my own personal racing goals. I'll be out there racing, but I'm going to try to take it a little bit easier, a little bit calmer this season.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun though. I mean, I think, Western States that's crewing out there. Running obviously is one thing, but crewing that's that's a bucket list thing too, honestly. Just being out
Yeah,
there.
it's really the dream.
Yeah.
It's really the dream.
Yeah, exactly. So
be able to just
that'll
go
be
out
fun.
there and feel good for 20 miles of it.
That's it, man. That's it. That's it, man. That'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be fun. So, yeah.
How about you, Chris?
Well, last year I really didn't race much at all, and so this year I'm excited to get back into it, hopefully healthy, and I think I have the exact opposite approach of you this year. So you want to try to race as much as I can. 2 years ago I raced, a fair amount of races, but yeah, want to try to get out and do a lot more racing this year. Want to sign up for things that are out of my comfort zone. Look for, at least begin to investigate some of the longer races. Interested in that. So yeah, we'll see how things shape out, but fingers crossed, stay healthy and, not only running injuries, but as you know, Sam, sickness from kiddos coming home, family, and that can be tough too. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be fun. I'll start the new year and again, see what it brings, man.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even finish recording a podcast, let alone run for a week. So.
Yeah. Well.
Oh well.
Well, we'll see, man. Hope. Hope everyone out there has some goals, some races coming up that they're excited for, and I hope everyone stays as healthy as they can too. Because it's a special thing, man, to get out and not only be at a race, but then execute it as well.
And hey, you know what? This is a direct message, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've made it this far in this podcast, if you're listening right here, right now, write us a message, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about your season.
Tell
us something. Just write us a message, interact with us, give us feedback, whatever. Give us a topic. We'll talk about it here.
Yep.
It could be, favorite chocolate. I don't care. Whatever.
Love it, man. Yeah.
Just give us a topic.
Funny.
Give us anything, and we'll run with it. We want to interact with you, the listener.
That's it, man. Yeah, funny stories, whatever it is. Interesting sights on a trail run or in a race or whatever it might be. Like to keep things light here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a very happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Chris.
Thanks,
happy
Sam.
New Year to you.
You too.
Nico, which is and Josh. I'm just going direct to our listeners.
Love it. Hey, man.
Love you all, guys.
There you go. All right, brother. See you guys. Bye. Thank you.